This is KGW News at noon.
And we start this afternoon with this live look from Washington, D.C. You can see the White House there and the flag, the U.S. flag, flying above the White House at half-mast to honor the death of former U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell, who died after complications from COVID. Good afternoon. I'm Drew Carney. Welcome to the News at Noon. And again, Colin Powell's death is our top story here this afternoon. Powell spent much of his life serving in the United States. After serving 2 tours in Vietnam, he later became National Security Advisor to President Reagan and eventually rose to the rank of 4-star general. Powell became the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, serving under both Presidents Bush and Clinton. And he also became the first black Secretary of State, serving that role under President George W. Bush. Colin Powell was 84 years old, and his family says he was fully vaccinated. From that story, we get to one of our top local stories this afternoon, which has to do with Portland's ongoing gun violence crisis. Police Chief Chuck Lavelle says the city has now gone past 1,000 shootings this year. One of the latest happened on Friday near the border between Portland and Gresham at 165th and Main. Investigators found more than 50 casings there, along with 4 live rounds. Bullets hit a mailbox, a fence, 4 parked cars, but police say it doesn't look like any of the places that were hit by bullets were the intended targets. At the same time, this investigation is still going on, so anyone with information is asked to contact Portland Police. And this next story is about another shooting over the weekend. This one involved deputies in Clark County. Now, the sheriff's office there hasn't provided a great deal of detail at this point, but we do know the shooting happened near the Orchards area by Northeast 49th and 122nd Avenue. Galen Etlin has more from neighbors in that area.
In Vancouver Sunday morning, a white SUV sat nose-to-nose with a Clark County cruiser, the result of an early morning chase that ended in a deadly shooting.
Right outside the front door.
Virginia Davidson says her family has been here near the corner of Northeast 122nd and 49th Street since the 70s.
And it's like, this neighborhood's never been like this.
Directly across the street, she can see the bullet holes, nearly a dozen in the wall of this mobile home.
Makes you kind of nervous.
Details are not clear. The Clark County Sheriff's Office said in a news release, just after 2 a.m., deputies tried to pull someone over who was wanted for assault with a gun. That person took off, and deputies used a pit maneuver to get the car off the road. The person got out with a gun. Shots were fired, and deputies said they found the person dead nearby. They did not say who fired shots first, who killed the person, nor where the person was found.
Heart-wrenching.
Rosie and Paul Bennett live in the mobile home community where their neighbor's house has those bullet holes.
Never experienced anything like this. I've always lived in a safe place.
Now, skid marks on the asphalt remain, a reminder to these neighbors of a deadly morning.
I hope it doesn't change the face of our neighborhood.
And never had to lock our doors, and now we're locking our doors, got dogs and patrols.
And a morning without many answers. Galen Etlin, KGW News.
Another big headline this afternoon is today's deadline for state workers in both Oregon and Washington to prove they're fully vaccinated. The COVID vaccine mandates apply to hundreds of thousands of people, from state employees to teachers to healthcare workers. Tim Gordon has more on today's deadline.
The deadline is here, Monday, October 18th, when governors in Oregon and Washington require many workers to be fully vaccinated or face losing their jobs. In Oregon, state officials have not said exactly how many people are subject to the mandate, but according to the Oregonian, it appears to be at least 200,000. That includes 43,000 executive branch workers under the governor's control, but unions representing 38,000 of those workers negotiated a deal giving them until November 30th. The good news, about 90% of those workers don't need an extension because they are already fully vaccinated. Educators facing the deadline also have vaccination rates much higher than the statewide average. Some schools saying better than 90% of staff members are vaccinated. The same can be said for hospitals, where the looming mandate spiked vaccination rates up. As an example, Portland-based Legacy Health recently said the vaccination rate of its 14,000-person workforce has increased from 85 to 95%. Legacy imposed its own deadline earlier this month, so 700 unvaccinated workers are already on unpaid leave. Multnomah County Health Officer Dr. Jennifer Vine says we are still learning the effects of vaccine mandates, but she generally supports them.
They are not new. They have actually been a cornerstone of public health and of improving the health and lives of people for over 100 years since vaccines really were invented.
In Washington state, Governor Jay Inslee's deadline is the same. 60,000 state employees have until Monday the 18th to provide proof of vaccination. Last Thursday, Inslee touted a 92% vaccination rate for those state employees, writing, quote, "The sky-high vaccination rates we're seeing should settle any concerns. There will be no massive disruptions in state services." But with nearly 5,000 state employees who have not provided proof of vaccination, agencies from transportation to fish and game to Department of Corrections are planning for staffing shortages. In Washington, as in Oregon, prison workers are lagging behind other state workers with 85% vaccination rates at last check. Dr. Stephen Krager is Deputy Health Officer for several counties in southwest Washington. He says for anyone up against a mandate deadline, the science is clear. COVID vaccines are safe and effective.
You're not going to be harmed by getting vaccinated. So, keep your job, get vaccinated, and hopefully, protect people along the way.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Our next story here this afternoon is about the deadline for Washington workers and Oregon workers. Of course, we know that the highest paid state employee in Washington could be out of a job today because of this story. We're talking about Washington State head football coach Nick Rolovich. Now, Rolovich did apply for a religious exemption, but it's still not clear if that exemption will be granted or not. To beat the vaccine deadline, some people got their shots yesterday at the Regents Club in North Portland. We saw 20 people there getting COVID tested at the site. This is the Boys and Girls Club again yesterday, and 10 other people were there to get vaccinated. Last week, the White House told states to prepare for emergency approval for the Pfizer vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11. And the Boys and Girls Club is preparing to vaccinate kids too. So they say they could handle up to 40 to 50 kids at a time at future events like the one we saw over the weekend. All right, before we check in with Rod Hill here, we are going to talk about Halloween for a second because it's now less than 2 weeks away. And unlike last year when COVID basically canceled Halloween, local doctors are saying people can have fun this year while also being safe. We spoke with Multnomah County Health Officer Dr. Jennifer Vines, and she shared some advice for families who are getting ready to celebrate with the costumes and the candy.
To keep those activities outside, it's still a good idea to have people masked indoors. And then just back to basics. If people are not feeling well, they really shouldn't be participating in Halloween activities.
Again, we have about 2 weeks to go before Halloween, and there are a couple of reasons to be optimistic this year. For one, COVID cases locally have been trending down, and school and workplace vaccine mandates have also helped boost vaccination rates.